Let's go to Joe Biden and China. On China.
What should Chinese President Xi know about your commitment to Taiwan?
We agree with what we signed on to a long time ago, and that there's a one China policy, that Taiwan makes their own judgments about their independence. We are not moving, we're not encouraging their being independent. That's their decision.
But would U.S. forces defend the island?
Yes, if in fact there was an unprecedented attack.
After our interview, a White House official told us U.S. policy has not changed. Officially, the U.S. will not say whether American forces would defend Taiwan. But the commander-in-chief had a view of his own. So unlike Ukraine, to be clear, sir, U.S. forces, U.S. men and women, would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion?
Yes.
So this is like the fourth time that Biden has said this, and then the White House has like immediately released a statement, or some official has walked it back. So I don't think it's an accident anymore.
Okay, well let's watch Jake Sullivan, who responds to this, because this is exactly what you described, Rania, which is that he says something and then this is a very good insight that you have. Let's show the Jake Sullivan clip.
Can you walk us through how the president's explicit
national
commitment
security
to U.S.
advisor
defense of Taiwan in the event of an attack by China is not a policy shift from what the U.S. has long held when it comes to Taiwan?
Well, as the president said in his interview on 60 Minutes, we continue to stand behind the one China policy. We continue to stand against unilateral changes to the status quo, and we continue to stand for peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. The president has reiterated those basic commitments on every occasion that he's talked about Taiwan, including in this interview where he specifically and emphatically and unequivocally reinforced and reiterated the one China policy. He was asked a hypothetical question in this interview. He was asked a very similar question back in Tokyo in May. He gave a similar answer in Tokyo in May that he gave in the 60 Minutes interview. After that answer in Tokyo, someone said specifically to him, "Have you just announced a major policy change?" And he said, "No, I have not. I've answered a hypothetical question. I have not announced a policy change. When the President of the United States wants to announce a policy change, he will do so. He has not done so."
Can I ask real quick, though, as a follow-up, is there a strategic effort here when it comes to deterrence? Is the President delivering an explicit message by answering a hypothetical, which he often does?
Yeah, of course.
Well, all I will say is the President is a direct and straightforward person. He answered a hypothetical. He's answered it before in a similar way, and he has also been clear that he has not changed U.S. policy towards Taiwan. He stands behind the historic U.S. policy towards Taiwan that has existed through Democratic and Republican administrations and has helped keep peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait for decades. Yeah.
The only side here that is threatening peace and stability around the Taiwan Straits is the U.S. It's constant provocations, constant statements like this by the head of the United States, visits by people like Nancy Pelosi that are totally provocative and actually encouraging Taiwanese independence. Like, Taiwan is part of China. The U.S. abides by a policy that sees Taiwan as part of China. But what is the U.S. doing? We know from the Wall Street Journal that the U.S. has been sending the special operations forces to help train the Taiwanese military. Since the war in Ukraine started, the U.S. has been essentially encouraging Taiwanese officials to adopt the Ukraine model and prepare for a Ukraine scenario. And what does that mean? That means complete devastation. That means inviting a war by a country more powerful than you are. Not a country, in this case by China. Like Taiwan, Ukraine is not a part of Russia. Taiwan is part of China. It's historically part of China. Chinese people will tell you that Taiwan was part of China for longer than the U.S. has existed. Right. The only reason it ever stopped, technically being a part of China is because of imperialism, colonialism, fascism. That's why. But I mean, it's just completely absurd, and it's none of the U.S.'s business, at all. The only reason that this situation is escalating all the time is because of the threats the U.S. is making, the militarization of the U.S. around the Taiwan Strait, and they're pushing China into a corner, much like they pushed Russia into a corner. And if there were to be some sort of war over Taiwan, the U.S. is not in a position to send Americans there to die for it, and they won't. That is complete BS. geographically speaking, China could shut that shit down like right away. The problem China would have, of course, is the fact that you have like a population in Taiwan that is very much like pro-Western and indoctrinated in that mentality. But I mean, at the same time, like it's just completely absurd and reckless what Joe Biden is doing, because he's provoking another major power at a time when we're already involved in a proxy war that's like destroying the world. And actually, honestly, leading to like really the deterioration of living standards for a lot of America's allies, like in Europe. And now you want to set fire in China. Like, it's just, the US is like this dying empire, but it's like in the beginning stages of its death. And it's almost like it's determined to just take the rest of the world down with it. Like, how many nuclear powers are you going to poke at the same time? It's crazy.